Hey, good morning. So, on this chilly winter morning in England, I spent my weekend trying to set up a Minecraft server for my son. And the idea being that if I could take a Raspberry Pi, so I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gig of RAM in it, could I set that up and put a Minecraft server on it and create a world that him and his friends could play on in kind of a safe environment, I guess. Or at least that's the thinking. So, yes, I spent my, well, not a lot of the weekend, but just kind of looking at a few tutorials, and generally speaking, the setup was pretty straightforward. Okay, so kind of following copy and paste directions. And even though they say the Raspberry Pi servers aren't that powerful, I figured 4 gig of RAM and a decent CPU might be able to do the trick. Anyway, so I then kept trying to connect from my phone, because I have a copy of Minecraft on my phone. I don't play it, it's the copy that my son plays. He's 8. And it just kept on saying cannot connect to world. So kept trying little things, making changes in configuration, doing whitelists and so on and so forth, seeing if I'd missed some obvious configuration setting. And in the end, or right before the end, what I did was I installed the Minecraft client for the Mac, which of course I couldn't connect to a server unless I had a paid for copy. So I ponied up 18 quid to try and connect to the local server, and lo and behold, it worked. I was able to connect to the server, so I tried again from the mobile device, the tablet he uses, and it doesn't work. Put out a tweet. Turns out there are 2 copies of Minecraft. One of them is the Java edition, and one is Bedrock, which is the version that's on the phones and the Xbox and the Nintendo Switch and all that kind of crap. So, long story short, well, the server I've got won't work for our purposes. Now, there might be some bridging software that I can try out. There is an alpha bit of software that runs the Bedrock on Linux, but it only runs on Ubuntu. So here is where I start to kind of wander into a territory that I have been struggling with for quite a while now. The idea of purchasing over renting. So the point of having a Raspberry Pi server is that I figured I wouldn't have any ongoing costs. I paid the server cost up front, and that's the only cost, and then we can run it forevermore, saving money. So the idea of paying like a rental fee, I think Minecraft or Mahjong, I can't remember what the name of the company is called, but Microsoft, they have like realms that you can buy, and that's a subscription. I could get a Ubuntu machine, rent a Ubuntu machine or an instance, a VM instance, and run this new Bedrock server on it. But that would be a subscription as well. I use a company called Scaleway, which is reasonably cheap. You can get a development machine for €3 a month, which really isn't that much money. But it's maybe not enough RAM to run Minecraft, so then I need more RAM, and it starts to add up. And I'm looking at buying a Ubuntu machine, or a PC that I would put Ubuntu on, and running that in the house. And to run a decent machine with enough memory. I don't need a screen or anything. I just telnet into it or telnet SSH into it. But that would be like 150 quid. And I started to think, like, the cost, £150, and it might not even be a good enough machine. What is the cost of owning it versus the cost of renting? And I'm like, particularly in England, we're very much about, like, we're in the 80s and 70s. I was born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s, and the ownership is much more important than renting, for instance. So we're kind of like, we're brought up to believe that owning your house was kind of the height of I don't know, adulthood in a way, I guess. So you own your house, and there's still this pressure to own a house. If you own a house, then you've done the big thing as an adult. We don't rent houses. If we're renting houses, and we're throwing money away. But I know that in Europe, and the rest of Europe, in fact, renting is kind of the standard, and buying a house is kind of weird. But I know that's based around landlord laws, and the laws in England are completely different, and they're very much kind of lent on the side of the people controlling the rent and so on. But it harks back to this idea of, I'd rather own the hardware than rent the hardware, because I feel like it's a waste of money. But then, is it really? I think about how much, like, I'll be lumbered with the hardware after that point. I guess I could reuse it, but by the time, the kids stop using that machine for that purpose, it probably isn't that powerful, and is just a chunk of hardware that I need to get rid of. My dad is really good at kind of buying hardware, and God knows how many leftover Windows machines he has. And I'm facing this problem in another way as well. Like, I've been thinking about music. My kids are old enough now, they have their own taste in music, and I want to let them listen to the music they want to listen to, rather than what I listen to. At the moment, we have one Spotify account, which I pay, which is mine, and I listen to it in the gym and when I'm working. But if the kids decide to listen to the Spotify account when I'm listening to it, it stops and starts playing there. And so how do I get them to listen to their own music, or have them not interrupt my music? Will I pay for another account or a family account or something? But then that requires that it's more subscription, and that they have to have their own registered account, like their own Google account in some cases, Gmail account, which is bananas. Like, why would an 8-year-old need a Gmail account? Why would I give an 8-year-old my 8-year-old's personal details to Google? Like, that's bananas to me. Why do they need an email address at that age? And so I think back to when I was a kid listening to music. I just stick the CD in the CD player, or the tape into the tape player, and I would listen to music. But the downside is, obviously, I can't just choose any music I want, which is what they want to be able to do. And that's the point of subscription. So I'm kind of stuck between like a rock and a hard place in some ways. Like, which one do I want? Do I want to own the music, or do I want to rent the music? And if I want to rent the music, I can have any music, but I can only listen to it in one place, or I have to give up an email address. This whole like subscription versus ownership, like software when I was younger was very much about, you'd buy software and you'd own it. Now it's all about subscriptions, and Photoshop, a good example. I finally succumbed to owning a rental version of Photoshop, and I pay them a yearly fee, and it probably hasn't even managed to get to the point where it costs as much as it did to buy Photoshop the first time around. So maybe it's more cost effective, but it doesn't feel that way. And I get the businesses need it for kind of long-term sustainability. I'm looking at it for some very small tools that I use. I think I talked about it in my last vlog, I guess. Is this what this is? And yeah, and so one thing I was wondering is this an age thing? Am I an old dog that doesn't really understand the mental model of subscriptions and doesn't want to kind of join in with the way that works? I wonder if those of you who are a little bit younger than me, or maybe born in the noughties or the late 90s, whether or not your mental model is more around subscription and whether that's a more natural way to pay for things, or if you still at this age think that paying for a subscription for a server seems to be less cost effective than buying a server. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about, and I haven't quite settled into something comfortable. I'm not sure I want to pay a monthly subscription for a Minecraft server that will be used on like rare-ish occasion. He's not playing it every day. We don't let him play it every day. And my video keeps on tilting. Whether I'm comfortable with that, but then on the other hand, it's quite likely it will be sucked up inside my business costs anyway, because it's just a server. If I buy a server, then it means managing it and plugging it in all the time, which is not a big deal, but I'm left with a machine that I then have to get rid of at some point, and it'll probably break at some point, or security concerns, all that shit. Yep, just walk out in front of me. Wow, this is a real not pedestrians over place. Anyway, yeah, so that was my thoughts this morning. I'd love to know if what your thoughts are on subscription and paying for things, whether or not it makes more sense. Yeah, let me know, because I'm looking for opinions on this one. Whether I should just pay the Minecraft people for a realm and just be done with it. Maybe that's the way. Bye.